What's going on, guys? I'm Dave, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Debt Free Differently. After 15 years in California, more specifically in Los Angeles and the Bay Area, my wife and I moved out to the Denver suburbs in 2016 to change the way that we lived, change what our future would look like, and also transform our finances. Since moving, we've never looked back. If you've been thinking about leaving California, in this video I'm going to cover the things that we were thinking about before making the move, how our lives are different now, and also give you some things to think about to help you decide if you're really ready to leave the Golden State. First things first, this is not a bashing California video. I love a lot of things about California. I lived there for the bulk of my life between Los Angeles, Cerritos, and the Bay Area. And while I still have love for California, I was no longer in love with it by the time we left. Before moving to Colorado, we were living in a one-bedroom condo on the west side of LA in Culver City. For about 2 years, we were thinking about either staying in LA, moving to South Orange County near Mission Viejo, or just blowing the whole thing up and moving to a different state. We looked at Oregon, Arizona, Nevada, and Colorado, and now we live about halfway between Colorado Springs and Denver. Here were some of the main reasons why we decided we are ready to leave California. If we stayed, we would never be able to afford a house anywhere close to where we lived. In a best case scenario with some very aggressive budgeting and side jobs, we'd move into a 2-bedroom condo in about 5 years. If we moved to a different area of LA where we could afford to buy a house, no part of us was ready to dish out the money for 12 years of private school. Now that we weren't in our 20s anymore, we had pretty much done everything that we loved about LA many times over, and we were too old to pretend that we weren't. There were always new concerts, new restaurants, and events, and Culver City was pretty much changing by the month, but really we had done it all. And even when there was something new or shiny, it would kind of turn to crap within a year. That's kind of what happens in big cities. Everybody finds out about it, and whether it's the lines or the wear and tear, it just kind of gets broken down. It's the circle of life in any big city. We also want to transform our financial situation, get out of the rat race where we had to make a certain amount of money, and put ourselves on the path to being financially independent someday. I was working for the man, grinding away. I had another offer to work for another man, but really our lives in LA were not drastically going to ever change. Also, LA is just expensive, and where it's not, the traffic makes you pay for it. Since moving to Colorado, we paid off $80,000 of debt, we bought 2 houses, we started a small business, and now we're well on our way to living a very non-traditional, debt-free life. Side note, traffic was not a reason why we moved. In LA or San Francisco, traffic was there long before you were, and it's not reasonable to expect that to ever change. Now, why did we decide to move to a different state? When we lived in Palo Alto, we went to an open house for an 800 square foot house that was for sale for $1.5 million. That kind of got the ball rolling that we might want to just blow the whole thing up. When we moved back to LA, we took a long look at South Orange County, Mission Viejo, Lake Forest, Laguna Niguel, that whole area. And there's a lot to like down there. We checked out townhouses, we looked at neighborhoods. There's a reason why everybody does it. We went to USC, so this is kind of just what you do. You go to college, then you hang out on the west side, downtown, or in the valley for as long as you can, and then you just move down to the OC. In the end, we knew it was going to be really tough for us to be able to pay off debt, buy a house that wasn't going to crush us on a mortgage payment, and just live the way that we wanted to live in California. I'm not saying that you can't pay off debt and be financially independent in California. I'm just saying it's really hard to do that in a big city. After a lot of Zillow research and a few trips, we decided that Colorado was going to be where we were going to start the next chapter of our lives. We didn't really have non-negotiables, but it checked off a lot of boxes for us. It was new for both of us, but we had family here. The houses in the suburbs were pretty affordable. We could get a lot of space both inside and outside of our house, and the school districts in the suburbs were pretty good. For our first house in Colorado, we put a down payment together with just side jobs and aggressive budgeting for about 2 years. It was the house that Postmates built. To compare the difference in housing costs, we sold our 1-bedroom, 1,000 square foot condo in LA for about $70,000 more than the 5-bedroom, 3,000 square foot house on a third of an acre that we live in now. Colorado also has all of the major professional sports teams. We have Denver Nuggets season tickets, but it really wasn't about the teams. It was just more that I wanted to be near a big city, and clearly there was enough going on economically that leagues decided to put teams here. Also, we could work in the same fields for similar pay. While nothing compares to the not real life pay of the Bay Area, my pay when moving out to Colorado was the same as what I was making in LA, but my cost of living dropped by about 30%. Another big plus was that everything was different. The outdoors, the altitude, everything we did was new, and that kept things fun for us. We live in the suburbs, so it's 4 years later and we still enjoy going up to Denver and checking out new things. Very few places can compare to Southern California weather, but in Colorado, despite the fact that it snows in September, we do get 300 days of sun per year, so while it was different, it was also familiar. Another cool thing is that people here really don't give a crap what you do for work. When you get out of LA, San Francisco, or New York, what do you do doesn't mean where do you work. It means more what do you do for fun, or what are the things that are interesting to you. While I love living here, if you're coming from California, there are some things that you should know. Compared to California as a whole, the food scene in Colorado sucks. I've never seen more identical, industrial, modern gastropubs with the same overpriced burgers in my life. That being said, there are some bright spots here and there, and I've learned to adjust. We have some pretty cool food halls, but it just doesn't compare to an LA, a San Francisco, a Chicago, or New York. Anybody who says that the Denver food scene compares needs to travel more. However, there's also a good side with that. Because the food scene here is so limited and people don't really know or really care when something new is opening, you can go on opening weekend and basically just walk in. There's not 2-hour lines at Chick-fil-A like there was at West Hollywood in LA. You just kind of go to new places because it's not really front of mind for people here. If you need exceptional Mexican or Asian food in your life, this is not the place for you. This is the kind of place where the majority of people have never tried dim sum. Also, you have to ask yourself if diversity matters for you. I'll never forget one of my first weekends after moving here. I was at a crowded breakfast spot with about 200 people inside. I was sitting at the bar, looked around, and realized I was the only minority in the whole restaurant. That had never happened to me in LA ever. This isn't just a Denver thing. We had visited Bend, Oregon, and we really liked it. And we had said that if we saw 10 minorities in 24 hours of us being out and about pretty much all day, we would seriously consider moving there. We saw 4. One of them was me in the mirror at a restaurant. Our town is so lacking in diversity that I've been stopped in the grocery store multiple times by random people who ask if I'm the music teacher at the local high school. I'm not, by the way. One night I was eating at a local sushi restaurant and an Asian guy happened to be running for the local school board and they were showing it on the local news and it was on TV. Someone looked at me, tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Best of luck tonight." I wasn't running for the school board. And while it's not really an issue day to day, a lot of Colorado natives really hate people that have moved here from California because of what it's done to the politics, the property values, the social issues, etc., etc. I see where they're coming from and I don't really blame them. There are lots of parts of LA and California that I hope never come to Colorado. When you travel internationally, you're usually pretty proud to say that you live in California. When you move domestically, a lot of people don't love that you're from California. Denver is also a second-tier event city. Concert tours skip us, Taylor Swift comes to us on the second leg of our tour, and it took forever for Hamilton to throw us a bone. But the good part is that you can get tickets to almost anything you want to go to because we're about 10% of LA County and the reseller market is not as insane as it is in LA. If you've been thinking about leaving California to change your life, to change your finances and your future, I don't blame you and you're definitely not alone. We did it and it turned out great for us. I'm not saying that we'll never return to California. We talk about it all the time, but moving out made sense for us at the time and it continues to make sense today. There are definitely things that we miss about living there, but we've gained in so many other areas of our lives that this is a place that we're very happy to call home. If you like this video or learned something new, please give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, or subscribe to my channel. Better yet, do all 3. Be my favorite person today. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode of Debt Free Differently.